Hi everybody, welcome back to Sunshine Soap and Candle Company. The wait is finally over. I've had so many requests over the last year to share with you a mop solution. And so finally today I'm going to be sharing with you a no rinse mop solution. This formula has really challenged my skill set as a formulator, and I've tried so many different iterations of this formula, so I think I finally have one that I'm ready to share with you. I wanted it to be just perfect, and although this formula could possibly use a little bit more tweaking, I'm going to share with you what I have so far. My goals for this formula included making a mop solution that did not have to be rinsed off of the floor after application, didn't leave any streaking, dries down quickly, and also smells really good and strong. So I'm going for more of a boutique style mop solution, sort of like I did when I made my laundry detergent. I really wanted it to be kind of more upscale and fancy. So this has been quite challenging. There's a lot that goes into it, so I'm very excited to be sharing with you the iteration that I have today. So if you would like this formula, please head over to my Patreon campaign. It's going to be available at the $7 level because it will be considered September's bonus formula. All right, let's get started. All right, so there's a lot to consider when formulating a mop solution. I'm going to try to be as concise as possible when describing to you all of those things that came into play. So I wanted it to be able to be used on multiple different types of floors. I have only tested, this is just a little disclaimer, on some engineered hardwood floor and also tile. It works beautifully on tile and engineered hardwood. I have not tested it on any types of floor that aren't supposed to get wet. I haven't tried it on regular wood, finished or unfinished, or anything porous or anything like that. So just so you know, if you decide to make this, please test it on a small inconspicuous area of your house before you go mopping everything. So what we're going to do, this is a phase A and a phase B formula. So we're going to go ahead and weigh off the phase A. This has minimal ingredients in it, and I wanted it to be kind of like an everyday type cleaner, not a really harsh, like heavy duty. If you need something harsher to pick up a lot of grease and grime, this is probably not your formula. But for an everyday type formula, also it can be used to as like an all-purpose cleaner. You can use it in a spray bottle on your countertops. It works really good for that as well. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and weigh off the distilled water for this formula. We're making 20 ounces today. So some of my challenges with this formula included making a formula that would not leave any streaking on the floors, and making something that was rinse-free. So that's actually kind of hard to achieve. You really need the correct balance of surfactants and water and the other ingredients that we're going to be using here today. So just so you know, that was my main challenge with this formula. And also I wanted the diluted mop solution, because you do dilute this after you make it. Before you mop, you dilute it down. And I wanted the diluted product to also have a very strong smell. I think that that's something that's trending right now, are kind of like boutique smelling mop solutions. They've been kind of trending for a while. I'm probably behind that trend a little bit, but I wanted, again, something that I could be proud to share and that actually did what I wanted it to do. So again, you'll want to do your own testing of this product on an inconspicuous small area before you mop everything. Everybody has different floors. What might work on mine may not work in your environment, so just make sure you do your testing. Okay, and I'll talk to you a little bit about some of my other challenges here as well. The next thing we're going to do is go ahead and add in our surfactants. Again, the surfactants here, it's a fine line between too much and not enough. You need enough to actually clean and cling to oil and dirt, but if you have too much, you have to rinse it. So getting that balance between cleansing and also not having to rinse was a huge challenge as well. I'm slowly going to weigh this in because I don't want to add too much on accident. So this is sodium lauryl ether sulfate, otherwise known as SLES, not to be confused with sodium lauryl sulfate, which is a much harsher surfactant. And the reason I'm using this one is because it has great cleansing properties. So I'm using this one as my main surfactant. These are also the surfactants that we're using are very gentle, and you guys have seen me use them a lot in other actually skincare and hair care applications. So I would be surprised if this formula damaged anyone's property or floor, just because everything that we're using here is super mild, and you know, if need be, if you had to rinse it off, that would be okay too. Like if you couldn't leave it on the floor as a rinse-free formula, and nothing I don't think is going to happen. However, there are some laminate type flooring I know that takes very specific kind of cleaners. So this may not be something that you can use. My engineered hardwood floor is super durable, and the reason why we decided to go with this floor when we had it done back in 2019 is because we have 2 dogs and 3 kids, and we have a pool, and so we needed something that didn't scratch easily, and we also needed something that was waterproof. So actually this floor is waterproof, so I don't ever have to worry about using mop solution on it, or I know in my old house we had some laminate flooring that just scratched up very easily and wasn't very durable to any type of water or anything like that. Okay, so we're going to give this a stir to combine, just to get everything kind of combined before the next step. Trying to stir gently so we don't get lots of bubbles and foam here. And you guys, I have to tell you, there's just so many different iterations that I tried and have tested with this formula to get to the point where I'm at now with it. And I think it's pretty good. I do think it's pretty good, but I haven't done any like really long-term testing on this to see like how shelf stable it is or how long it lasts. So just full disclaimer here. But I wanted to get this out to you because I think this iteration is probably as good as it's going to get or very close to. All right, the next surfactant we're going to be weighing off is some Cocamidopropyl Betaine. Again, a very gentle surfactant. This is an amphoteric surfactant, meaning it can combine with any other type of surfactant. You don't have to be worried about separation with this one. Using this one. Okay. So part of the issue I was having also with this formula as I was going along is with solubility. So I wanted a kind of clear or mostly clear formula. So we're making a stock right now. So this stock is meant to be diluted. So I wanted the stock to be mostly clear, but it wasn't like a huge priority. If I had one that was milky white and worked perfectly, then that would have been okay as well. I did make some that were made with polysorbate 80. I made some with glycerin. I've made some with a combination of polysorbate 80 and alcohol. So there's just a lot of different things that I tried in this formula. Finally, I think I got it down because some of them were streaking and my dilution ratios weren't great when I went to go dilute it down, and I had to dilute it too much. And then if you dilute it too much, then you're reducing the fragrance. So every little tweak or change I made on it affected something else in the formula. So it's just been a big challenge. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and give this another stir. Just kind of getting everything combined. Now, some of my challenges with this formula, like I said, were with solubility. So I wanted the stock to be homogeneous and clear, mostly clear. I don't think we're gonna get a totally clear one. I wanna show you one iteration that I'm still using because it works really good, but you can see there's a little fine layer here on the top of this formula that just kind of, if you shake it up, if you gently agitate it, it will re-emulsify. This is a diluted stock, but also in the undiluted stock, the same thing was happening in the undiluted base formula. So this is going to be the stock, and then you dilute it with water before you use it. So my undiluted and my diluted, not a big deal. I mean, really, if you just kind of gently agitate it like this, it goes right back to being homogeneous. So this actual formula might have some issues with that, the one that I'm showing you today. I just haven't had a long time to test it. So we can go over troubleshooting and things like that as we move along as well. So the next thing I'm gonna do is go ahead and add in my third surfactant. Now this one is really important. You really cannot swap this one out for a different one because this one is going to help with solubilizing the fragrance, which we're using quite a bit of fragrance because, like I said, I wanted a nice and strong mop solution, and I wanted to be able to add as much fragrance as I could. Again, when you're diluting it down, you're going to lose some of that fragrance. So I wanted to make sure this was nice and strong, but obviously this is a watery mix, a watery base. So we need some things to solubilize the oil that we're going to be adding in. So the first thing we're going to do is add in some Caprylyl glucoside. This is a surfactant that you see in a lot of different skincare applications, hair care. It's super gentle, plant-based. All of these are gentle and plant-based surfactants, but it also is very powerful at solubilizing oils. It's very good at it. And this will be better than using something like a polysorbate 80 in your formula. This is going to help with cleansing. It's going to feel less sticky than a polysorbate. It's less likely to leave film on the floor than polysorbate, and it helps with solubilizing. So don't try to substitute this one for another one unless you want to make one that should be rinsed off. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add in the last surfactant here. Just checking my amounts. So I'm being very careful to stay accurate with the surfactants that I'm weighing off, just because, again, if you add too much surfactant, it's going to leave residue on your floor. Perfect. Okay, giving this a stir to combine. That's your phase A. Okay. Now, your phase B ingredients may surprise you, but it works really well. And I'll explain why. Okay, so I'm going to set aside my phase A now that everything is well combined. And then I'm going to take this little beaker here and we're going to combine our oils with another solvent. Now, the only oil I'm using here is some fragrance oil. And you guys need to also check your usage rates. Check your for usage rates for household cleaning products if you want to swap it out. I'm using Roasted Pine Cone by Midwest Fragrance Company. It's a beautiful fall fragrance. It smells so good. I've used this in candles, beautiful in a candle. It has a nice, kind of like a outdoorsy smell, but not pungent. It smells, I wouldn't exactly say it's like a roasted pine cone. It's definitely got outdoor notes. So the name of it is a little bit deceiving because it doesn't have any of like those embers or fire notes, but it just smells so good. And it's a very strong fragrance in this particular formula. So I'm really liking it. So what we're gonna do in this little beaker is we're gonna combine some perfumer's alcohol. This is the ingredient that I think is gonna surprise some of you. We're using a perfume base. This base was gifted to me by Bulk Apothecary, and it came just in time because this is when I decided to start formulating the mop solution with some perfumer's alcohol. And this one works really great in this formula. I am now an affiliate for Bulk Apothecary, and you can find the link to this perfume base in the description box. And we'll be doing some more testing of other products that they have sent me in next week's video as well. So it's super exciting. They have high quality products and ingredients, and I know lots of you out there are also perfume makers. So this can double as your perfumer's alcohol for perfume making, and you can use it in this mop solution. And what's amazing about this one is it's not very expensive. So you don't have to worry about using it in something like a mop solution because it really wasn't that expensive. This gallon size comes out to about 24 cents an ounce. So that's a really, really good price. So, and it works really good. So we're gonna go ahead and add in some perfumer's alcohol, and for good reason. So with a mop solution that's no rinse, you want it to dry down pretty quickly. So adding this type of alcohol is gonna help to have the formula dry down quickly. It evaporates quickly. It helps the floor to dry faster, and it reduces chances of streaking or water spots. It's gonna leave less residue on your floor, like a glycerin or other humectants. Perfumer's alcohol doesn't leave any sticky or slippery residue. So that's really important, especially if you're gonna be putting it on the floor. Also, with perfumer's alcohol, again, it's gonna solubilize the fragrance oil that we're using to help it combine with the watery ingredients. And so this is better designed to dissolve fragrance oils evenly to ensure that the mop solution has a uniform scent and that the fragrance will carry into the air as it dries. That's why perfumer's alcohol works so good in a formula like this, because it's going to disperse the fragrance in the air unlike other solvents. That's what its job is. So you'll see when you use it and when you mop with it, it makes your whole house smell really, really good. But it's not like overpowering, will last for, you know, days on end, but for definitely several hours after your house smells really good. So this is going to also boost cleaning power. It's going to help to cut grease, lift soil, break down residue that water and surfactants might not be able to do by themselves. It might also have a little bit of an antimicrobial effect, maybe a little bit of a disinfecting effect, adding a fresh and clean benefit. So this is why we're using this today. I just wanted to give you an explanation as to why we're using a perfumer's alcohol. It seems kind of weird, but actually it makes perfect sense. So we're gonna go ahead and, I don't wanna use too much of this. Again, using too much of it, just weighing this off very carefully. In fact, I'm going to try something else here to get this going a little bit quicker. Okay, I've gone ahead and weighed off the perfumer's alcohol base. I poured it into this Pyrex and measured it into this beaker here just because my jug was so big. This made it a little bit easier. Now, this looks like a lot of perfumer's alcohol. However, this is going to go into the stock. Now, if you use too much perfumer's alcohol or alcohol in general in your mop solution, it could actually dry down too quickly, leaving your floor, it can get too volatile in the solution and dry too quickly, and that will also leave streaks. So what I've done is I've added enough in this formula for the stock so that when the stock is diluted down, we're kind of at that sweet spot where it doesn't dry down too quickly, but does dry down nice and fast. So that took some tweaking and a lot of practice. So we're going to go ahead and pour off the fragrance oil into the perfumer's alcohol. And this was also a little tricky because you want it to be a nice and strong fragrance, right? But you also, if you add too much, you get solubility issues. And not only that, it could leave a residue on your floor. So all of that being said, this formula may still have a little bit of a film. I'm really hoping that over time we won't see that, but just full disclosure here, I'm sharing this because I really am liking the way that it's working as the formula is written. However, there may be a tiny bit of, just a little tiny bit of separation like I showed you in that other bottle over time. So I don't think that's a huge big deal because the benefits, how well this works really is kind of, to me, outweighing that little negative, which is the reason I've decided to share. So I'm going to go ahead and what we want to do is totally combine the perfumer's alcohol with the fragrance and get it completely solubilized. Just so you know, this is probably not a mop solution that is ready to sell just because I haven't tested, again, I haven't tested it for any extensive length of time at all. And again, I'm not sure how shelf stable everything is. And I think if I were to sell this, I would want it to be a professional enough formula that we aren't dealing with any separation of the actual mop solution stock. So I would want it to just be a totally homogeneous formula. So, you know, I'm really hoping that this one eventually, I'm really hoping that this one just does everything perfectly. So what we want to do now is slowly incorporate this into the main batch here while stirring. So this formula, as you can see, is a little bit milky, and that is just kind of the way that formulas go with Capryl, Caprylyl glucoside when you're using it as a solvent like we did in this case. This is sort of just kind of the way that they look. They tend to get a little bit more settled out and a little more clear looking over the course of a few hours. So more like this, but not totally clear, which is something that I've am learning to just be okay with this type of formula because of, again, because of the benefits, because of everything else. Now, it already smells so, so good. I've switched to the stirring rod because I'm in a very full container here. I just want to make sure everything is totally combined before I add it into my container. All right, so another thing the perfumer's alcohol is going to do is it's going to inhibit the foam and lather, which is good. We don't want something super sudsy on the floor. So, or, you know, I've shared with you guys some surface cleaners that need to be rinsed down with a wet rag. In this case, we want the foam and lather to be less. We don't want a whole bunch of foam and lather. It's just harder to keep it as a rinse-free product that way. So I think we are going to get a tiny little bit of this white film on the top like I showed you before, but again, it's that fine balance. If we add too much alcohol, it's going to totally change the outcome of this formula. So just so you know, that's something that you may see while making this formula. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pour this into this 20-ounce Boston round. And now I've picked up a little bit of lather there. I'm going to hit this with a little bit of rubbing alcohol. Okay, I have a little bit of the stock left over here. So I'm going to dilute this down, and I'm going to dilute some down into a spray bottle so you guys can see how this works. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and weigh off how many grams I have left here. Okay, so I have 48 grams of product left over, and I like to dilute this 2 parts water to 1 part stock. So we're going to go ahead and weigh off 96 ounces of distilled water. Now, you don't have to use distilled water. You can use tap water when you're getting ready to mop, but I'm going to be putting this in a spray bottle for the countertop just to show you how it works. I'll be putting it on, I'll spray down my scale here so you can see how it works. Okay, so we're going to weigh off 96 grams. That will be equivalent to 1 part stock to 2 parts water. And you could dilute it down further if you like. You can go 3 parts water to 1 part, a 50-50 blend, 1 part water to 1 part stock seems to be a little bit on the heavy side. Like I did experience a little bit of streaking with a 1-to-1 dilution. Okay, so now that this is diluted down, I'm going to go ahead and put it in a spray bottle and show you how this works. Okay, so we're just going to pour this into this little 6-ounce spray bottle. And, you know, as you dilute it down, you can see it does get a little less milky or cloudy looking. Okay, so as you can see, I just wanted to show you on this nice and shiny surface. I've gotten stuff on here from today's project and it's got a little bit of residue on it. And I also wanted to show you on this nice and shiny surface because I want to show you how well it works. I'm going to grab a few paper towel. You could use a wet rag here too. I might demonstrate both of those because your mop is going to be wet when you use it on the floor. But yeah, let's just go ahead. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to spritz down. I'm going to get it really nice and saturated here so you can see. And then just take a couple paper towels. This is how I use it on like my countertops and such. Sometimes I use a wet rag, sometimes I use a paper towel. So I just wanted to show you how good it works. This does not work great on glass, so it's definitely not effective at glass cleaning, but countertops and surfaces it works great on. So check that out. Absolutely beautiful, clean, no streaking, no rinsing. I mean, that's just it. So if you were going to be using a wet mop on this, let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so this wet rag here is going to represent my mop, or sometimes if you're spot mopping, you may be, down on your hands and knees using a wet rag with the spray bottle. So I'm going to just show you what it looks like to do that. Again, getting this kind of nice and saturated. Your mop is going to be, wet from the mop bucket as well, but you just want to go ahead and clean like normal, and then allow this to just kind of air dry. So as you can see, we're not getting any like suds, which is really nice. So, and right now it's going to take a few minutes to totally dry off now that I used a wet rag on it. But as you can see now, it's looking nice and shiny, clean, no residue left on it. So I'll give you kind of a little bit of a close-up when this totally dries down so you can see what it looks like. Real quick, while this is drying, I wanted to let you guys know I did forget to show you the preservative. You do have to add a preservative to this, which I forgot to do while I was filming, but it's not a big deal at all. I'm going to go ahead and add in 1% of some liquid Germall Plus to this, and the reason why is because there's not enough alcohol in this formula to preserve it. So we do need to add a preservative in here, which I'll go ahead and do, but the preservative and all that will be written up. Everything will be written up perfectly in the tutorial that I share over on Patreon. So I'll go ahead and I'll put a little subtitle where I would have put the preservative in, but that would have been basically just after you mix in the perfumer's alcohol and fragrance, then you mix in the preservative, and then that's that. So this is all dried down now. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Totally streak free and beautifully clean. So that's how this part's still actually kind of drying a little bit. So it looks a little, you might be able to see a tiny streak there, but it's still actually a little bit wet. So anyway, everybody, I hope you liked this video. This took a really long time to get this where I thought it was appropriate to share, and even still, we might have a little tiny bit of unsolubilized oils, but to me, using this personally, and it's not a big deal to just kind of gently, agitate it just a little bit, and it goes right back to being homogeneous. So I just wanted to give you full disclosure here that the benefits of this outweigh the tiny negative of that. And as I move along with this process, I may be able to resolve that. But I wanted to share with you what I have so far, and that it's a totally usable product. It just may require a little bit of like agitation before use. But anyway, I hope you like this video. If you try this, let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback on it. And yeah, finally, I'm sharing a nice, strong smelling mop solution with you guys. Leave me some comments and questions below. I would love to hear your feedback and what you think of this formula here. And if you have any questions, also leave in the comments below. That really helps out my channel, helps with engagement. Subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. All right, everybody, catch you on the next video. Bye. Keep shining. P.S. I went ahead and added in my preservatives to make sure this stays stable, and I will continue to keep you updated in the community section here on YouTube and also on my Patreon campaign about how this stays. If we get a little bit of film on the top of it, like I've experienced in the other iterations of this, or not. Hopefully not, but if we do, again, I think that's okay as well. All right, everybody, catch you on the next one. Bye.